Welcome to the Golden Mike Minute. It is Thursday, June 9th. We're going to look back at the winners from last night, see if we can emulate their success going forwards. And last night, we actually finally had an homage to the past of how stacks used to be and how they should be. Let's go. All right, so I'm using Fantasy Cruncher, our partner site right here, and you've got the top four finishers in the $200,000 relay throw on DraftKings, 50K up top. The top four finishers all were 150 maxers. They all used 118 or more players, and they stacked 14 or more teams. Now, when we look at the winner last night, we can see he won with a naked 5 Phillies stack. Naked 5 means he used a 5-player stack from the Phillies with no other stack on the other side, meaning he had 3 one-off bats out of his 8 hitters in his lineup. Out of all the stacks he used, he actually only had a single 4-player stack, and that was the Boston Red Sox. When we look at our stack combinations, they were mostly 5-2 spread out 35 times, a single 5-3 one time, meaning we also had the other 4-player stack that is 37 total lineups. That means 113 of his lineups were naked 5s. They were not stacked with anybody else. You can see 149 out of his 150 were 5-player stacks, with Philly being the highest exposure at 12%. Atlanta, he had 10% exposure to. The Yankees, 10% exposure to, rounding out his top 3 teams. Now, when we look at the tournament itself, very similar to what we saw the other day when we saw this stacks tab. 2-player stacks, 65% of all the field had a 2-player stack involved in their lineup building. 58% of all lineups included some sort of 5-player stack. 3-player stacks were 36% of the field, and then 4-player stacks, still, some people holding on to 2017, 2018 DFS strategies going 4-4s. Sub 20% at 19.2% are using that. When we really break it down to 5-player stacks, we can see the Yanks last night were the highest owned, 9%. Dodgers, 7.3%. Atlanta, 6.8% owned on the 5-player stacks side. And then we saw that Philly was his highest rostered 5-man stack, which means he had a little edge over the field, considering they were only the 4th highest rostered stack, and they were his first. One thing I like to do is compare player exposure and see if there's any, strong takes where someone said, the highest owned player last night was Nathan Eovaldi for the Red Sox against the Angels. Angels had like a 26.9% strikeout rate against right-handed pitchers, so of course everyone flocked to Eovaldi. Decent price tag at 8.8K. Nice, decent strikeout rate this season, and against a team that whiffs like crazy against righties. Well, he was 35.5% owned. Sometimes people think a little too far into this stuff, and they fade these pitchers because, they're worried about ownership. Well, this guy who won first place was not worried. A little bit over ownership on the highest rostered player. He had 40% compared to the field's 35. Same thing for Aaron Nola last night. He had 48% exposure to him. He was the second highest owned at 33.9%. And so on and so forth. His actually top 4 pitchers were the top 4 owned pitchers last night. Again, we've talked about this for 4 shows now. Pitching will not win you a tournament, but it can totally lose you the slate. So you can often sit on those optimal picks, and then with your stacks, you just get a little bit different. It's not like he went and grabbed a terrible offense. The Phillies were the 4th highest rostered team last night. He simply just made them his first highest rostered team. So out of about 24 options, I believe, on a 12-game slate, he had the 4th highest owned as his highest. That is a very nice way to get a little bit different while still using a very solid team to stack. His winning lineup was Aaron Nola, Nathan Eovaldi at the pitching spots, and then he had a 5-player Philly stack, which we've covered, Real Muto, Hoskins, Bryson Scott, Kyle Schwarber, Odubel Herrera, and then his one-offs were Jose Ramirez for the Guardians, Jake Cronenworth for the Padres, and Tyler O'Neill for the Cardinals. Well, we continue to see the 5-player stacks at least up at the top. Today, we finally saw a 5-player stack with the takedown, and we also saw the top 4 spots being 5-player stacks. It was only a matter of time, in my opinion. It was very close to winning twice out of the previous 3 days we've done this show, and I hope that you are taking something away from reviewing the winners from each and every night. If you are listening on podcasts, hit that 5-star review for me as I finally fired up my podcast life. It's been years podcasting out of the car, all those things to get things started. And here we are, full circle. I'm in a very cold basement now. At least I've got cool lights behind me, right? If you could do me a favor, just hit the subscribe button. If you're on YouTube, drop a like down below, turn your notifications on. And again, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you're listening, it's all over the interwebs. If you can go ahead, just leave a 5-star rating for me real quick. Super helpful. Scroll down on your phone. You can do it. Appreciate y'all. Let's get paid.